A village of 86 people funds its own police department, nearly 20 officers, one road, one stretch of water, around the clock for fewer residents than most apartment buildings. There is a Florida town you cannot reach by car, no bridge. A private ferry is the only way in. That island holds the single richest zip code in the United States. And there is a residential peninsula near Stewart, quiet, tree-shaded, bordered by water on 3 sides, where the median home is worth $1.5 million and almost no one outside the county knows its name. This is the real map of Florida money. 12 small towns the wealthy are quietly buying up, ranked by how much of it and how well hidden. These are not the Palm Beach postcards or the Naples brochures. These are the places where the people who own the brochure company actually choose to live. Before we're done, we'll reach a town where the census literally cannot measure the median income. Its scale maxes out below what the residents actually earn. And we'll stop at a place that isn't secretive at all, because one entry on this list does the opposite of hiding. It's the one near the top you won't see coming. At Sunshine State Life, we track the version of Florida that doesn't end up in the listing photos, and we tell you what the photos leave out. If that's the kind of research you want in your feed, go ahead and subscribe now. Let's get into the money. Number 12, Sewall's Point. Pull up a map of Martin County and find where the St. Lucie River meets the Indian River Lagoon. That peninsula, bordered by water on 3 sides, canopied by old live oaks, home to about 2,000 people. That is Sewall's Point. Drive through looking for a downtown and you won't find one. No commercial strip, no signage. Just understated driveways set back from the road and the kind of quiet that takes money to maintain. The numbers do not match the visual modesty. Median home value around $1.5 million. Median household income near $130,000. Poverty rate of about 2.5%. For a place this invisible, that is an extraordinary concentration of financial stability sitting behind a tree line. The residents here are the Treasure Coast's doctor and business owner class. People who chose a peninsula that doesn't announce itself and who moved in partly because it doesn't. No celebrity footprint, no flashy gates. The wealth is structural, not performed. Your neighbors are physicians and executives who wanted a place that looks like any other old Florida neighborhood, where the value is real and the profile stays low. What I keep coming back to is how the whole thing works without a single landmark to hang it on. There's no famous club, no landmark sale, no named street that tells you what you're looking at. It is just a quiet peninsula that costs a great deal of money and requires nothing from you except the ability to afford it. The honest limitation here is the one that opens the list intentionally. Sewall's Point is the countdown's lowest wealth tier by a meaningful margin. This is affluent professional money. Solid, serious, and real. But it is not billionaire money. The Forbes list does not retire here. The doctors and business owners of the Treasure Coast do. And that distinction is exactly what makes it a clean starting point. Rich enough to be exclusive. Unknown enough that most Floridians have never heard the name. Which is, of course, the whole point. Number 11, Captiva. Past Sanibel, at the end of a road that runs out of island, sits Captiva, 1.5 miles of Gulf Front Barrier Island in Lee County with fewer than 400 full-time residents and a stretch of Captiva Drive that goes by the informal name Millionaires Row. The typical home runs around $1 million. The Gulf Front trophy houses go past $20 million. It is, in the most literal sense, a road that leads nowhere but water and wealth. Here's the honest fact that shapes everything about Captiva right now. Hurricane Ian made a direct hit. The island took serious damage, and values have come down roughly 10% in the recovery period. That is not a rumor. It is Ian's legacy, visible in the prices and in the rebuilding still underway. I'll be direct about what that softening actually means. For most people, a 10% dip on a Gulf Front Barrier Island is still a number that lands somewhere between impossible and absurd. For the people who can park serious money and wait out a recovery cycle, a discounted private island is still a private island. The quiet money is not reading the price dip as a warning. It is treating it as a buying window. Picture this. You own a Gulf Front house at the end of a road that terminates at the water. The storm came through. The value moved down slightly, and you, or rather the people who own Captiva, have the financial cushion to wait it out, which is precisely the kind of wealth this whole list is tracking, the ability to hold. What Captiva proves, and it's worth saying plainly, is that this category of wealth is not immune to a bad storm season. The island is still clawing back. That is a real trade-off, and anyone pricing hurricane exposure against a Gulf front address needs to take it seriously. For the ultra-rich, a discounted private island is still a private island. That math has not changed. Number 10, Alys Beach, the one I said you won't see coming. Every other entry on this list guards its money behind understated driveways, private gates, or simple obscurity. And then there is Alys Beach, sitting on Scenic Highway 30A in Walton County on the Panhandle's Emerald Coast, doing the exact opposite. The walls are white. Not off-white, not cream. Bermuda white, uniform across every surface, a master-planned village of fortified concrete that rids, from the road, like a film set or a fever dream of a Mediterranean village dropped onto the Gulf Coast. It is one of the most Instagrammed addresses in the American South. Privacy is not the product. The image is. On price per square foot, Alys Beach is among the highest in the state, recently around $2,000 a foot, with homes averaging near $10 million. By that metric, it belongs on this list without argument. What I find genuinely interesting about this entry is what it says about the range of strategy in Florida money. Every other town here is running the same play. Be overlooked, be invisible, let obscurity do the security work. Alys Beach runs the opposite play entirely. It is aspirational and loud and deliberately photogenic, and the wealthy still buy in. Because for a certain buyer, the postcard address is the point, not the privacy. The catch is simple and worth stating clearly. Alys Beach is the countdown's one outlier. It is not secretive. It announces itself. It is here as the explicit exception. The single Panhandle entry, the one place where the money wants to be seen rather than hidden. Everywhere else on this list hides its wealth. Alys Beach paints it alabaster white and puts it on a stamp. Number 9, Windsor. Most of the towns on this countdown achieve exclusivity by being unremarkable to look at. Windsor, on a barrier island near Vero Beach in Indian River County, achieves it through an actual application process. The community was founded in 1989 by Galen and Hilary Weston, the Canadian retail billionaires behind Loblaw and Selfridges, and designed by the architects who essentially invented new urbanism. It is an invitation-only sporting club with golf, equestrian facilities, and polo grounds, roughly 350 home sites set behind a gate, and a culture built around the assumption that its residents were evaluated before they arrived. There are no listing signs inside Windsor, no price tags visible from any approach a visitor could make. Sales run through the club, not through any open market you could search. The practical consequence of that opacity is significant. Current home prices are essentially unpublished. You cannot research your way to a number. The town is not merely private. It is designed to be unresearchable. Your neighbors here were vetted before they moved in. So, if you're in Windsor, were you? That vetting is not incidental to the experience. It is the experience. The amenity isn't just the polo field or the golf course. It's the assurance that everyone around you passed the same filter. What I find striking about Windsor is how the deliberate architecture of inaccessibility extends all the way down to the data. A buyer who wants to understand the market has to know someone inside, which is, of course, exactly how Windsor was designed to work. A town most Floridians could not locate on a map, built from scratch by billionaires who specifically preferred it that way. Number 8, Golden Beach. 1 square mile. About 600 residents. North edge of Miami-Dade County, sitting just above the towers of Sunny Isles like a quiet wall between the condo density and the Broward line. Golden Beach is the most infrastructurally defended entry on this list so far. And that says something given what's still ahead. The town has its own police department. Patrol officers, detectives, K-9 unit, Marine unit, for 600 people in 1 square mile. A gated entrance that photographs every vehicle coming in. No public beach access, no public parking, no boardwalks. The visual signals are unambiguous. This stretch of sand is not for you. Recent home sales in Golden Beach have run near $9 million. That is the price point at which a town decides its private beach policy is worth defending in court, and Golden Beach has made exactly that decision. The tension worth naming plainly is this. Florida law says the beach below the high tide line is public. That is not a rumor or a loophole. It is state statute. Golden Beach's walled garden policy has drawn public access disputes as a result, and the town has decided that privacy is worth the legal friction. Whether that posture holds over the long run is an open question, and one that any buyer here should factor into the calculus alongside the gate camera and the marine unit. A small town that functions, deliberately, as a private one. The infrastructure is real, the policy is intentional, and the tension with Florida's public beach law is not going away. You've just seen a town with its own marine police unit and a camera on every car that enters. What comes next makes that look like an open neighborhood. Coming up, a community that didn't just guard its gate. It built the entire infrastructure of a small American town from scratch, sealed it behind a membership requirement, and staffed every piece of it. Number 7, Ocean Reef Club. Drive to the northern tip of Key Largo in Monroe County, reach the guarded gate, and if you are not expected, you stop there. Behind that gate is not a gated community in the usual sense. It is a sovereign infrastructure system on 2,500 private acres, an airport, a marina that accommodates mega yachts, a medical center, a fire department, a K-8 school, a grocery store, and more than a dozen members-only restaurants. Ocean Reef is not a neighborhood within a larger place. It is the whole place. The infrastructure of a small American town, complete and self-contained, with a membership requirement where the entrance road would otherwise be. Early 2026 sale prices ran a median around $5.5 million, with listings stretching to $75 million. Those numbers are significant, but they are almost secondary to the structural point. What Ocean Reef sells is not just real estate. It is the ability to live entirely within the gate. Your doctor is inside. Your groceries are inside. Your marina slip is inside. Many residents do not need to leave, and a substantial number don't. The catch is worth understanding before you run any numbers on this. You cannot simply buy your way in. Membership requires sponsorship by a current member and a formal approval process. The listings trade through a private system most real estate agents never access. The gatekeeping is not a byproduct of the community. It is the product. The exclusivity is architectural and procedural at the same time. What the truly wealthy build when they want a whole town. Staffed, secured, and gated entirely on their own terms. Number 6, Manalapan. Palm Beach County, Barrier Island Spit, just south of Palm Beach proper, population around 450. If Alys Beach is the loudest entry on this list, Manalapan is the quietest. There are no photographers staked outside the hedges. There are no paparazzi. The money here has made a deliberate calculation. The anonymity is worth more than the spotlight. The geography is the starting point, and it is, on reflection, remarkable. Most of Manalapan's lots span the full width of the island. Atlantic Ocean on one side, intracoastal waterway on the other. A single estate can carry a private ocean beach and a deep water dock for a yacht without crossing a street. That is not a common configuration even among the wealthiest addresses in Florida, and the people who own here know exactly what they have. The county's official median home value sits around $2 million. The actual trophy sales cluster near $10 million and above. The gap between those numbers reflects how much private transaction activity flows through this market without making headlines. What I find worth underlining about Manalapan is the explicit trade it represents. This is Palm Beach money. Same ocean, same tax environment, same barrier island geography, without the Palm Beach social scene or the Palm Beach press attention. Residents here chose the version of that deal that comes with the hedge and not the spotlight. That anonymity is priced into the market. It is considered, by the people buying in, to be worth a premium. For quiet money, that anonymity is worth more than the address. Number 5, Gulfstream. Fewer than 1,000 people. Just north of Delray Beach, Palm Beach County. A historic golf club built around a 1923 Donald Ross course. The founding spine of the whole community, visible from the road, understated, historic, not showy. Hedge lines so consistent they read like a design code. By household income, Gulfstream is repeatedly ranked the wealthiest town in Florida. The median household income lands somewhere between $200,000 and $216,000 depending on the survey. Listings run around $4.5 million. The everyday resident here, by the numbers, is richer than almost anyone else in the state. The town does not acknowledge this. That restraint is not accidental. It is part of the culture. Gulfstream does not have a sign on the road that announces its income ranking. It has hedges and a golf course and a founding era club that has been setting the social tone since Harding was president. What I think is worth being honest about here is the definitional question embedded in the richest town label. That headline depends on which yardstick you're using. Gulfstream wins on income per household. Other entries higher on this list win on median home price or total wealth concentration. It's a distinction that shifts with the metric, and a careful reader should understand that richest here is a specific claim, not a universal one. On the ground, none of that matters much. Gulfstream is a hedge-lined enclave where the numbers say almost everything, and the town says almost nothing. 5 towns left, and the prices are about to stop making sense in any ordinary frame of reference. Coming up, a single off-market transaction that is, on the public record, the most expensive residential sale in Florida history. Number 4, Port Royal, southern edge of Naples, Collier County, and the single most expensive neighborhood, by the numbers, in the entire state of Florida. Port Royal was engineered from the ground up around a private canal grid. Canal after canal, dock after dock, a street system designed so that nearly every home has deep water access and a direct path to the Gulf by boat. The infrastructure was built for boats, not cars. Money moves in and out on the water, quietly, without a road visible from outside the neighborhood. The median sale price runs around $16 million. Price per square foot regularly clears $2,500. And an off-market compound here reportedly sold for $225 million. The highest residential transaction in Florida history by a significant margin. That number deserves a pause. $225 million for a single compound, and the name of the buyer stayed out of the paper. The prices are on the record. The owners are not. I keep coming back to that combination because it is the sharpest version of the thesis this whole countdown is built on. Port Royal draws Fortune 500 executives and major wealth figures, but the community's culture is built around keeping those names out of public view. You can research the transactions. You will not learn much about who was behind them. The canal grid that moves boats out to the Gulf unseen is a physical expression of the same principle. You can read the numbers all day and still never learn who is behind the hedge. Number 3, Jupiter Island, 17 miles long. A narrow barrier island in Martin County that has ranked among the wealthiest zip codes in America for decades. Per capita income around $254,000. Median home values north of $5 million. Estates of 4 to 10 acres that trade quietly through private channels on a timeline and at a price that the public market rarely sees. The Jupiter Island Club has anchored this place since 1932. That institutional longevity shapes the entire character of the community. The wealth here is old in feel even when the buyers are not, and the trades are handled the way old money prefers, privately, slowly, without a press release. Past and present residents reportedly include Tiger Woods, Celine Dion, and Greg Norman. The sea grape and sand at the road's edge give no indication of who is behind it. The estate setbacks are deep enough that the houses are, in many cases, invisible from the street. What I think is genuinely worth flagging as a data trap. The Jupiter Island zip code also covers mainland Hobe Sound, which is ordinary middle-income Florida, the kind of place you'd find anywhere in the state. That overlap means the town's wealth is easy to understate or overstate depending on which data line you pull. The town of Jupiter Island proper is the real thing. The zip code is a trap for careless analysis, and more than a few rankings have fallen into it. Pull the right line of data, and what you find is one of the densest concentrations of old, discrete American money anywhere in the country. Hidden in plain sight behind sea grape and sand, on a road where you can drive the full length and come away with no sense of what you just passed through. Number 2, Fisher Island, 216 acres, off Miami Beach. No bridge, no road connection to anything. A private ferry or your own boat, those are the choices. And for anyone who doesn't know someone on the island or own a boat capable of making the crossing, the island simply is not accessible. That physical barrier is not incidental. It is the first layer of what Fisher Island actually is. And by the tax data, what it is the richest zip code in the United States. Analyses have placed the average household income here north of $2 million a year. The census cannot measure the median income accurately because its scale maxes out below what Fisher Island residents actually earn. That is not a rhetorical flourish. The measurement instrument is not calibrated for this population. The island has its own private beach with butler service, a deep-water marina, a golf course, and a spa. Past and present residents reportedly include Oprah Winfrey and Andre Agassi. The exclusivity is total in the practical sense. If you are not invited, you are not arriving. The honest limitation is worth stating because a $2 million average household income is a specific claim. It is an average, and it is pulled significantly upward by a small number of extraordinary earners at the top of the distribution. Fisher Island's exclusivity is also structural rather than spatial. Condominiums and clubs behind a ferry crossing, not the vast private estates you find at Port Royal or Jupiter Island. The acreage is small. The concentration of wealth is extreme. But there is a reason the phrase richest zip code in America keeps landing on this island. The access mechanism, the ferry, the absence of a bridge, is not an oversight in the infrastructure. It is the design. You cannot drive there. And that is the point. Number 1, Indian Creek Village, the Billionaire bunker. 86 residents, about 41 home sites, a private man-made island in Biscayne Bay reached by a single guarded causeway, and its own police department. Roughly 19 officers assigned to those 86 people, patrolling the one road and the surrounding water around the clock. That ratio, 19 officers for 86 residents, is one of the highest police-to-population figures anywhere in the country. It is not an accident or a quirk of budget timing. It is the product being sold. The village funds this force deliberately. The patrol on the water and the visible presence on the causeway are not incidental security. They are the signal. Anyone approaching the island understands immediately that arrival requires authorization. The roster of documented owners is the deepest on this list by a wide margin. Jeff Bezos has assembled multiple lots. Mark Zuckerberg, Tom Brady, Ivanka Trump, and Jared Kushner, Carl Icahn. In early 2026, Zuckerberg's purchase closed at a reported price near $170 million, the highest single-home sale in Miami-Dade County history. Here is where I want to be honest about what separates Indian Creek from every other entry on this list, including the ones that felt impenetrable. The others achieve their privacy through being small and overlooked, through obscurity and understatement, through hedges and quiet roads and an absence of signage. That strategy has a name: invisibility. Indian Creek abandoned invisibility a while ago. It may be the most photographed private enclave in America. The names of the owners are known. The sales prices are reported. The island does not hide. What it does instead is build a physical barrier, water, and staff the one crossing with officers whose job is to ensure that knowing the address does not get you through the gate. The fortress is the privacy strategy now. For 41 home sites with no open listings and a 9-figure price of entry, obscurity was never going to be enough anyway. Every other town on this list buys privacy through being overlooked. Indian Creek stopped hiding and built a wall. The final, absolute version of what all 12 of these places are really selling. Distance from the people who weren't invited. That is the product. It has always been the product. Indian Creek is just the version where the price tag and the police force and the guarded causeway make the sales pitch explicit. Every town on this list is selling the same thing under a different label. A tree-lined peninsula, a white-walled village, a gated sporting club, a ferry crossing, a man-made island. Different packages, same transaction. What the wealthy are quietly buying up across Florida, in 12 places most Floridians have never heard of, is distance. Controlled, maintained, and in some cases armed distance. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of where that money actually goes, not the famous addresses, but the overlooked ones, hit the like button and subscribe. We track these places every week, and the next list is already built. One question for the comments: which one surprised you most? The island you can't drive to, the town with 19 officers for 86 residents, or the place where the census can't even measure the income? Drop the number. And if you want to know where this quiet money goes when it leaves Florida for the summer, the small towns in other states running the same play, that list is ready.